As Gambians head to the polls in December 2021, GDC leader says those insulting tribes are playing dirty politics with no agenda for Gambia. Haiti President Jovenel Moise has been shot dead by unidentified gunmen in his home. And the Tunisian Navy has rescued hundreds of irregular migrants from the Tunisian coast. The armed chief concludes nationwide military tour at Joint Service Headquarters in Banjul. These and more coming on the world today. Stay tuned. Good evening, viewers. You're watching The World Today newscast here on Africa TV with me, Sohna Tunkara. We now begin the news bulletin with a breaking news that reveals the death of the Imam of Sukuta village in the Kombo North. Alhaji Ismail Mbai has died in the early hours of Wednesday, Africa TV have learned. Imam Mbai has been battling with lung illness before his death and was laid to rest this evening at the Sukuta cemetery. The late Imam has been described by many as pious and highly religious scholar in the Gambia. More details of Imam's passing will be featured in our upcoming news bulletin. Now, from that, the leader of the Gambia Democratic Congress, Mama Kande, has branded the tribal insults in the name of politics as dirty, saying those doing it have no agenda for the Gambia. Kande said political parties shall sell their agendas to Gambians, but not insult one another. Omar Ahmad Toure tells us more.
Mama Kande of GDC says he is worried about the way politics is being run in the Gambia, especially the use of offensive languages and insults directed towards tribes in the name of politics. He is with the conviction that politicians pushing this disgust have no vision for the country.
The trend that we have seen the Gambia is going through now politically is something that we have never experienced in the past. The abusive language that people are using, try and kind of labeling political parties, you know, insulting each other, you know, insulting tribes and whatever you call it. These are all dirty politics. But I believe those that are doing that, they have nothing to offer to the Gambian people. It's just because they have nothing in hand that they can say, this is what I have for you. And if I am elected, this is what I'm going to do for you. I think these are the agendas and programs that we should be selling to the Gambian people, not insulting them or insulting each other. At the end of the day, even if one becomes a president, you become a president of the Republic of the Gambia, not a president of a particular tribe.
According to him, tribal politics should be expunged from Gambia as it is a deterrent to the country's development, saying the culprits are doing dirty politics. In June 2016, at a rally in Tallinn in Bufa Zone, former President Yahya Jammeh insulted the Mandinka tribe and threatened to wipe them out. He said Mandinkas belittle other tribes when they are foreigners from Mali. This irresponsible speech was condemned by the majority of the Gambians and was one of the reasons why Jammeh lost the 2016 presidential elections. Since then, Jammeh has always been blamed for sowing the seed of tribalism in the Gambia, especially now that insulting audios are being circulated on social media. However, the GDC standard bearer says Jammeh should not be blamed for instituting tribalism in the Gambia since he is away.
If that was caused by the former president is no more here. And if that is the reality, why can't we look back and say, look, this is not going to help us anywhere, but things are even getting worse. So the former president is not around. I mean, he is no more the president of the Republic of the Gambia. So why should that continue? Why should that trend even get worse?
Tribalism should not be elevated to dominate how people think and talk or determine what they oppose or support. It should not be promoted by the political elites or embraced by the young and the old. People need to be well enlightened about the values that make for peaceful coexistence, including cultural reorientation on the beauty of diversity, according to research. Reporting for iAfrica TV, this is Omar Ahmad Toure.
GDC party leader Mama Kande condemns politics of insult as Gambians gear up for its presidential elections. Now moving on, Haiti's President Jovenel Moise has been shot dead by some unidentified individuals who intruded his home in the early hours of Wednesday morning, the country's acting Prime Minister Claude Joseph announced. The First Lady, Madam Martin Moise, also sustained some injuries in the attack and is said to be receiving medical treatment. Mr. Joseph described the attack as hateful, inhuman and barbaric, saying the group that attacked the president and his wife were highly trained and heavily armed. President Moise was elected in 2016 and took office in February 2017, following a chaotic elections that forced the appointment of a provisional president to serve during a long-year gap. Haiti witnessed a series of violent protests in the last few months, calling on the president to step down after his tenure elapsed, but he insisted that his term began when he took office in February of 2017. From that, coming back home, the rigorous 12-day nationwide tour to military deployments by the Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Yakuba A. Drame, has ended on Tuesday at the Joint Service Headquarters in Banjul. As the tour is meant to assess the living conditions of deployed troops, some of these challenges faced by soldiers range from lack of access to water and electricity to low pay, amongst others. Mariama Cham tells us more.
The Army Chief rounded the 2021 nationwide tour to military deployments across the country on Tuesday, where the aim of the tour is to assess military troops and their working conditions in various bases across the country. As they were offered the opportunity to talk to the High Command without taking the long chain of communication, soldiers shared their problems and concerns to the Army bus. Issues raised ranging from lack of access to water and electricity, especially in some military bases across the country, to low pay. Some of the bases visited by the Army Chief, soldiers pleaded with him to help them provide access to water as they travel afar in order to get water on a daily basis. As electricity is a national concern, the CDS reveals that his office has been making numerous visits and follow-ups to the National Water and Electricity Company in order to look into the issues but yet to yield progress. The CDS started the day at the State Guards, where he had a meeting with the troops on issues of concern, including the well-being of the armed forces. Lieutenant General Yakuba A. Drame was received at the Joint Service Headquarters by the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Mohamed O. Cham, and other senior ranks of the Joint Services. Major General Mohamed O. Cham, the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, hailed the efforts of the CDS upon his completion of the military tour. Deputy CDS Cham took the opportunity to relay the problems faced by the Joint Services Headquarters, which include lack of office space, among other issues retarding the administrative work of the Armed Forces Joint Services.
Basically, sir, at this Joint Services Headquarters, the complaints have been lack of office space and the wherewithals in some of them with which to perform the command and other administrative responsibilities that the general officers and the officers serving under them would need to be able to address the wider challenges of their respective commands. I have no doubt that you've taken those things on board, and without letting the cat out, I know that you have ambitious plans which, once you get the right footings, will surpass our expectation.
Accommodation being a major obstacle of the Army, a structure is being built at the Farafanya barracks so as to cater for soldiers living outside the barracks, as the Army Chief describes it not the best.
Last year, when I went round to all the military installations, I was able to make comparative analysis in terms of the conditions of soldiers in the respective barracks. One that caught my attention was the Farafanya barracks. I observed with dismay that some of the soldiers, 3 of them live in one room, one single room. Why? There is not enough accommodation in Farafanya camp. Some of your colleagues, they are living outside barracks. That was, to me, not the best.
CDS Drame says after observing the conditions of these issues, he says a solution must be found. The command visited the President and then the National Assembly, where a budget was approved, which started the construction of an accommodation structure at the Farafanya barracks, which is expected to cater for over 100 men. As priority is given to the construction of Farafanya barracks, the same plan will apply to other barracks, including Basse, as soon as the Farafanya one is completed. The Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces Lieutenant General Yakuba A. Drame just ended his 12 days military tour deployment to various military bases across the country here at the Joint Service Headquarters in Banjul. Now, during their face-to-face with the army bus, most of the challenges raised by personnel of the Gambia Armed Forces is lack of access to water, electricity, and that of low pay. Now, in response to some of these challenges by the army boss, he said his office will look into the issues as soon as possible in order to provide solutions to some of these challenges. Now, with regards to accommodation, a construction is being built at the Farafanya Barracks, where it will cater for almost 100 men if the building is completed. Reporting for iAfrica News, this is Mariama Cham.
The Gambia Chief of Defense Staff has concluded its nationwide military tour on Tuesday. Now, elsewhere in Asia, Chinese President Xi Jinping has called on the key European countries to expand consensus and cooperation with China so as to play an important role in properly responding to global challenges. President Xi Jinping made the remark on Monday during a virtual summit with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel in Beijing. Amin Dao files in this report.
Over the past 100 years, the Communist Party of China has led the Chinese people in opening up a development path suited to China's national realities that has won universal support of the Chinese people. In a virtual meeting with the French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel on Monday in Beijing, the Chinese President Xi Jinping called on Europe to expand consensus and cooperation with China. According to Xi, the world needs mutual respect and close collaboration rather than suspicion, antagonism, or zero-sum game, noting the persistent severe situation of COVID-19 globally. He urged the two sides to play an important role in properly responding to global challenges as they uphold correct mutual cognition. In the context of COVID-19 prevention and control, the Chinese president says France and Germany should keep optimizing fast tracks for personnel exchanges. He also called on them to jointly steer the reform of the World Trade Organization in a correct direction, expressing the hope of the European side to provide a just, transparent, and non-discriminatory business environment for Chinese enterprises in accordance with the market principles. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, says France is committed to promoting cooperation with China in a practical manner, supports the conclusion of the EU-China investment agreement, and the strengthening of cultural exchanges. The French president also welcomed Chinese companies to invest in France while applauding China for its great achievements in its development. According to the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Germany stands ready to strengthen coordination and cooperation with China on promoting fair production and distribution of vaccines and on restoring personnel and trade exchanges. The leaders of the three countries also exchanged views on African issues, as President Xi pointed out that Africa is the region most concentrated with developing countries facing the most difficult task of fighting the COVID-19 pandemic and achieving economic recovery. Xi expressed the hope that Europe could increase its support and assistance to Africa, provide more vaccines to African countries in urgent need, and help Africa cope with debt pressure and realize economic recovery and green and low-carbon development at an early date. Meanwhile, the Chinese leader asserted that China is ready to work with Europe to ensure positive outcomes at the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity and the 26th session of the Conference of the Parties of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amin Dao.
South Africa is set to tighten the oversight of cryptocurrency assets following a proliferation of scams. The country's cryptocurrency service providers have been operating unchecked by regulatory powers, even as the popularity of the asset class has taken off. The collapse of Johannesburg-based Mirror Trading International was called the biggest crypto-related scam of 2020. We have details of that in this report.
Illicit activity leading to large sums of money involving cryptocurrencies disappearing in recent years have forced financial state institutions and regulatory bodies to reconsider their previous approach to leaving digital currencies unregulated.
I think that we are closer than many other marketplaces are. I think the Reserve Bank was very quick off the mark, but I think that's commiserate with much of South Africa's history in that we do tend to be early adopters of regulation, for better or for worse. So some of the better things there is, of course, you have tighter capital controls and more control of your economy and more transparency and more efficacy in dealing with economic crises, for example.
A new working paper on regulating cryptocurrencies has been released and is expected to influence South Africa's next steps in dealing with digital currencies.
We agreed that banning crypto assets would not be appropriate given the propensity such action might have in driving activity underground. Then also, I think, as well reported in recent months in the South African press and even internationally. So I suppose in view of the various suspected fraud and or scam related events, particularly involving crypto assets that have made the news over the last few months, doing nothing is also not an option.
Authorities are currently looking for the founders of a Johannesburg-based crypto company after $3.6 billion of investors' money disappeared.
So that's quite a challenge that regulators have to get a balance between making sure that you're giving enough space for young things to grow, but also not allowing things to move too fast. Our Reserve Bank is looking to start cracking down on the crypto space. I think that it's perhaps in this case maybe a little too late, but going in a bit too strong.
The Intergovernmental FinTech Working Group was established in 2016 with the objective to create a forum for regulators to gain deeper insights into FinTech innovation and safeguard customers' interests.
So each individual's kind of regulator or IFWG member, there is already the conceptual agreement and buy-in that they would take forward the recommendations and implement them as it pertains to their area of responsibility.
The recommendations focus on consumer protection and how to bring crypto assets within the domestic exchange control framework. The working group says there will be a multi-speed approach to implementation over the next 6 months.
We will now go with a short commercial break, and upon our return, we will take a look at the hundreds of irregular migrants that were rescued at the Tunisian coast by its navies. Don't go away.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is the World Today newscast, and now to our remaining stories. The Tunisian Navy has rescued hundreds of irregular migrants from the Tunisian coast. The migrants shared the difficulties they encountered while trying to cross from Libya to Europe. Details of that in this report.
According to the Interior Ministry, the migrants aged between 3 and 40 are from Bangladesh, Sudan, Eritrea, Egypt, Chad and Nigeria. They said that they had set off from the coast of Zuwara in Libya but failed to reach Europe.
I would like to acknowledge Tunisian government for accepting us here as a migrant, and all the effort they have been giving to all the migrants here, especially in Nigeria. We really benefit a lot. Sometimes there is issuance of card so we can get our food and other of our need. So we really appreciate that.
Many migrants revealed that they had spent several months in detention centers in Libya. They opted for irregular migration when they were released by the Libyan authorities.
The difficulties we are facing here as a migrant is the issue of identity. Yeah, most of us, we lost our identity in Libya, Algeria, especially in Libya where there is war. For example, I myself, I lost all my identity there. I was in prison for 6 months in the Libya, and after which I lost everything I have. So I have to run to Tunisia for rescue. And I'm happy that Tunisia is giving me the rescue which I came for.
The representative of the UN Refugee Agency in Tunisia explained that the wave of refugees and migrants will continue in the Mediterranean basin and the world due to the negative repercussions of the pandemic.
There are local and global challenges. The number of refugees is increasing, as well as the number of migrants in an unprecedented manner. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a highly negative impact on their conditions and the host countries like Tunisia. Tunisian authorities are doing their best, despite all the difficulties.
Tunisian authorities announced that the phenomenon of irregular migration has intensified this week due to good weather conditions in Libya, Algeria and Tunisia. According to the Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights, hundreds of African irregular migrants have already reached the Italian coast this month. Men, women and children are fleeing difficult economic and social situations as well as insecurity. Adan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
Hundreds of irregular migrants crossing from Libya to Europe have been rescued by Tunisian navies at its coast. Moving on, Zimbabwe has opened its first open prison for female inmates to allow them go home and learn new skills as part of the rehabilitation process. The open prison gives credence to Zimbabwe's drive to modernize prison and correctional services. More of that in this report.
At first glance, these women look like they are in a hostel, going about their gardening, rearing chickens and doing each other's hair. But this is a prison. Marondera Women's Open Prison took in its first 29 inmates in June and is giving them a new perspective on incarceration.
I'm as good as at home. At the closed prison, we would sleep at 4. But here, we sleep at 9 p.m. We cook on our own. We have so many projects that we do. And we are not told what to do, but we also bring in new ideas and suggestions as to what we want to do.
It's a welcome change for nursing mothers too.
At the closed prison, we had to leave our babies at the nursery every morning, but here we get to breastfeed them as much as we want and spend most of time with them.
The open prison system is designed to enable inmates to reintegrate into society as easily as possible. To facilitate that, inmates here will be allowed to go home and visit their families and be in the community for 5 days every month.
That time is important to maintain relations.
Our male counterparts, when you are in prison, they don't follow their ladies. But when they know you'll be one day coming on off and you will phone them, your wife will be coming, they will be prepared, and that means the broken relationships. And for the family, the kids, even if there is no father, but the mother, when she is warm, the home is warmly.
Prisoners who've served a third of their sentences with a record of good behavior are eligible to come here, where they can start to prepare for life after release.
The closed prison setup was designed to punish. Now this setup is more on the rehabilitative side. You can tell that this is rehabilitation. I made my mistakes. I'm being corrected, and it's going to help me to get back into the society. And at least I need a starting point. So this is where I'm getting my starting point with the project that we are doing.
Inmates get a percentage of profits realized from their various projects.
Well, viewers, that was all from me and the rest of the crew on The World Today. For more national stories, you can catch up with us on Gambia 24 at 19:30 GMT rather. I am Sohna Tunkara. Thanks for watching and bye for now.